Future Fest. Today is all about the future, and I can't imagine a better person to speak with about that than Elon Musk. He is forging the future, as you all know, across multiple industries, repeatedly, in the most spectacular way, in a way that others have failed before him, and perhaps unprecedented in history. So I'm a big fanboy. Future Fest originally, I think, bounced around, and why this month, because this is a special month for Future Fest, is that for those of you old enough, and it looks like maybe 5 or 6 of you in the audience to have been around when Back to the Future, the movie, came out, they had this vision of the future in the second edition of that series where they fast-forwarded in a time warp to the future. And it was October 2015. And they had flying cars and hoverboards and biometrics and video calls and what looked like Google Glass a lot of the times and a lot of other stuff that was completely cockamamie. But some of those dreams were true, some were not. And as a framework for Future Fest, we can think to the past and our dreams that did or didn't come true. I think that's where we'll start, and then move to the future. We're sitting here today. What do we think the future may bode? So turn to Elon maybe as a starting point. As you think back to your high school days 30 years ago when we were both there and dreaming of that future, what about today is or isn't in accordance with what you thought back then? I mean, where have your dreams of the future, the bold visions, met or not met reality today?
Well, I think the most remarkable thing that we do have today is the internet and access to all the world's information from anywhere. So that's having a supercomputer in your pocket is, I think, something people wouldn't have predicted, in Back to the Future. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. And probably what they would be most surprised at is that we haven't progressed more in space. So the people would have expected, I think, to have a space hotel. In fact, Arthur C. Clarke,
2001 should have happened.
Yeah, exactly. Thought 2010 was really crazy, in terms of space advancement. So we would be going to Jupiter and that kind of thing. So that's probably the most surprising thing. Particularly if you go back even further, if you say in '69 when people first landed on the moon, if you'd asked the public what would the situation be in 2015, I think they would imagine that we would have a base on the moon, a base on Mars, and be all over the solar system by now. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest.
So what happened? I mean, is there any pattern you can sense for where our dreams and science fiction realities drift from reality and where they are reality? Is there some reason you think, because we have dreams today of where that we're going to have these Mars colonies in the near future, and unless something jumps to mind, let me. I have a bunch of questions, by the way, from the audience as well here. I want to move to something a little more current as we move forward in time. 20 years ago, when we first met, you were starting your first internet company of 2, the one before PayPal, Zip2. And I know that in your youth, you envisioned a variety of industries that needed to change. When you were pursuing your first one, did you imagine you would get to the next one and the next one?
No. I mean, when I was in college, I just thought, well, what are the things that are most likely to affect the future of humanity, just in at a macro level? And it just seemed like it would be the internet and sustainable energy, making life multiplanetary, and then genetics and AI. And I thought the first 3, if you worked on those, they were almost certainly going to be good, and then the last 2 are a little more dodgy.
In terms of the net benefit?
Yeah. It's for the double-edged sword, and you're not sure which edge is the worse.
Interesting. So it seems like begging the question, are genetics and AI the ones that are ripe for students today to be thinking about as they look to the future?
I mean, they are.
Yeah.
My cousin, I have a younger cousin who's just finishing up sort of a physics and computer science degree, actually at Berkeley.
We know.
And he says everyone there is in the computer science department is working on AI. So I think we're going to see some crazy breakthroughs in the next few years.